Hello everybody. Today I said I was going to talk about my little dog, and I will. It's probably going to be a short one. Just like him. Hey! That was not written. That was not scripted. That just came to me. I did write a script. Well, I call it a script. I wrote some sentences down, and my intention was just to read it out. So if it sounds very constructed and artificial, then that's because it is. I wrote some stuff about my dog years ago. I haven't seen him. I mean, he's still in America. I guess I don't even know if he's alive. The last time I saw him was April 2013, and this is 2018. Yeah, he's probably dead. He is probably dead. So I wrote a little thing, and I'm going to read it. Where are we? Come on. I'm supposed to have these things ready to go. There we go. A dog, my dog. Also, I wrote the whole thing. Bits of it are from when I wrote a thing that long ago. So some of it was in the present tense. So I'm going to have to jig it around in my head, those bits. Here we go. It's not my dog, is the opening bit. I didn't even want it. That's true at the time. I considered it a crime against animals to have a dog in an apartment, and we lived in an apartment. And our apartment was not huge either. I didn't want to sleep on the mattress because it was too hot, and sometimes it felt wet because I sweat so much in those sleepless nights that invariably occur around the end of August and the start of September. In Ireland we used to joke that the weather finally picked up when kids went back to school. That is true. Whenever the kids go back to school you can expect a mini heatwave. During these nights I would slide off the mattress, it wasn't even a mattress, it was just a thing. And it was on the floor basically, I was sleeping on the floor. And I'd slide off that thing, it's a futon thing, to get some sleep. And if I went off the mattress and I stretched out in the middle of the night, my foot always hit something, and that's how small the apartment is. But somebody thought it was a suitable environment for a dog about which we would know nothing. Now there was an ad in Craigslist. The dog would cost $50. Right, the girl who wanted the dog brought me along because she did not have $50. The dog belonged to a Mexican lady who lived in Fontana, California. We drove all the way to Fontana on a typical hot, dry June day, and there he was, small, long, recalcitrant, incorrigible black and brown possible doxy mix. That's what the vet put on the form when I was getting him fixed. Doxy mix. Doxy is vet speak apparently for dachshund, which is a long, low type of dog specifically bred to fight badgers. Dachs is the German word for badger, and hunt is the German word for dog. Dachs hunt. I'm apparently the only person who pronounces it like that. Even the Germans don't, they call it something else. So I might be the only person in the world who pronounces that word, dachshund. People say dachshund and Wiener dog and so on. I say dachshund because it's how I see it. Do 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 dachshund. I did not realize it at the time, but dachshunds are notorious for being very difficult to train. There's a guy called E.B. White, who is a humorist, a comedy writer and so on. James Thurber said of him, this quote, by the way, I have written down, "Most of us, out of a politeness made up of faint curiosity and profound resignation, go out to meet the smiling stranger with a gesture of surrender and a fixed grin. But White has always taken to the fire escape." So White is already my kind of people. That's what James Thurber said about White, and this is what White said about dachshunds. He said, "Being the owner of dachshunds, to me, a book on dog discipline becomes a volume of inspired humour. Every sentence is a riot. Someday, if I ever get the chance, I shall write a book or warning on the character and temperament of the dachshund and why he can't be trained and shouldn't be. I would rather train a striped zebra to balance an Indian club than induce a dachshund to heed my slightest command." That's what E.B. White thought about dachshunds, and having had experience of one of them, I see what he means. They are quite recalcitrant. The Mexican lady in Fontana told us that the dog was called Toby. They called him Toby because two of his rear toes were flapping merrily in the breeze halfway up his back legs. Useless. Exchanged silent glances created an immediate consensus that Toby was about as dumb a name for a dog as we could imagine, especially in light of the explanation. We would fix that later. The Mexican lady was nice about the whole thing. She said she didn't actually want any money, she just wanted a quick way to weed out people who were not serious about getting a new dog. She told us some people took him a few days previously, but almost immediately brought him back as unmanageable, and I decided at that exact moment that no matter what he did or how bad it got, we would never abandon this animal. So we took him. There were 4 of us in the car on the way home. There was 3 girls and me in the passenger seat, making sarcastic comments and generally being cynical, or as the girls call it, negative. In the back seat, the dog sat between 2 of the girls, howling like a banshee. So the first thing we learned about the dog was that he does not like car journeys, and he never got used to them. I was with that dog for 5-6 years and he never got used to them. The discussion began about what to call him. Clearly Toby was stupid and out of the question. We eventually settled on Leonard, partly inspired by the ostensible lead character on The Big Bang Theory, the television show, as opposed to the proposed start of the universe, which may also have been called Leonard. I don't know. But we decided to call him Leonard after the lead character on The Big Bang Theory, with the proviso that if we ever acquired another dog, which became an increasingly remote possibility, we would call it Sheldon. I had a dog before when I was 9 years old. My father called him Towser, and my mother called him Spot, but his real name was Dog, because I called him Dog. He was a Jack Russell puppy who died in mysterious circumstances at the age of 9 months in a collision with a stationary vehicle. He had fallen asleep under the car of the mayor of the town, who lived 3 doors down from us at the time, and when the mayor of the town started the car, Dog suddenly jumped up and hit his head on the chassis and dropped dead. Or so the story goes. I was inconsolable. My parents were unhelpful. They immediately blamed me for Dog's death, implying negligence. Now, they might have been correct. I'm not sure. I was 9 years old, but it's still a hell of a trip to lay on a kid. I remember I always had a tough time in school. The other kids used to push me around and the teachers didn't really know how to deal with me either. I'm incredibly weird. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm a very strange person. Even now, I'm not sure what could have been done about it. Dog would never behave for my mother, probably for the same reason that I never did. Deep suspicion of her ulterior motives. He was okay with my father, but with me, he was always delighted to see me. No matter what, he was always delighted to see me. And that's something that my dog shared with Leonard, this dachshund. If I go away for a while, Leonard is always really happy to see me, jumping up on me and running around in circles and so on. And in this crazy world of shifting allegiances and people who like you only as long as you do X or believe Y, it's nice to have something solid to depend on. Leonard will always be happy to see me. I could kill a bunch of 3-year-olds with a hammer and he would still jump up on me when I got home, begging to play some game that is always rigged against him. Leonard never got any training. I know this because the vet said after she thought I was gone that nothing was ever done with him and he's not very socialised, which is a pleasant way of saying he barks at everyone and everything. You know what? Now that I think about it, she could have been talking about me. Nothing was ever done with him and he's not very social. I assumed she was talking about the dog. Anyway. He barks at everyone. He did. He used to bark at everyone and everything. We got to know him better. And the barking was less indiscriminate than we thought. Although he seems to have particular difficulty with black people and children. There was a time, actually, we had to keep him locked up. By I mean, like on the leash the whole time or inside the house. You couldn't leave him outside, he'd just go crazy and start running at people. But one time we opened the door and he darted out and there was this black girl, she was like 9 years old or something, 10 years old. And he just went for her and started screaming at her, shouting, and you know the way dogs get aggressively barky. And he was right up to her, like a foot away from her, barking and barking and barking. And she was calm as a breeze. And I went out and I grabbed him and I said, wow, I said, good for you, you kept your shit together, because they say if you make funny movements or something, the dogs might take it as a threat by accident and bite you or attack you. But she just stayed very still and very calm and quiet. And even when I grabbed the dog and had him up, and I had him up in my arms, I was saying, you know, you kept your shit together. Good for you, lady. And she said, I used to breed Rottweilers. This 10-year-old black girl apparently had a whole other life that she seemed reluctant to speak about. Dealt with it as one would wave one's hand at a suggestion. Just, it's fine, I used to breed Rottweilers. I just wanted to know everything about her. But, you know, when you're 30-something years old, there's only so long a conversation can last with a 10-year-old girl before someone calls the police. So I said I better stop it. She seemed really interesting, and I did want to know more, but out of respect for the general impression, I suppose. It's always depressing to me that I can't talk to kids. I flippin' love kids. I love talking to them. It's just sad. We live in a time where I can't talk to kids, or people think I'm a bad man. That's what they used to say years ago, a bad man. Covered everything, didn't it? So we had to train him. Training the dog was a nightmare. I was told that to train a dog to sit, this is the standard training protocol. To train a dog to sit, you place some food just above his head so he has to sit down to eat it. And when he does this, you say, sit. And the idea is that the dog will eventually associate the command with the food reward and respond to the command without the food, as long as you occasionally, randomly, I guess, give him a reward every so often and continue to do so, that he will eventually associate those two and he'll just do what he's told. This is very simple Skinnerian logic, and it works with most dogs. And after a few days of drilling this into Leonard, he would sit, but only if I was actually holding some food, and only if I was in the kitchen. Now, was this my fault for training him only in the kitchen? Should I have done this in every room in the house? And if so, what about outside? Is this dog completely stupid, or some sort of genius that needs to be studied as the possible next step of evolution for dogs? I'm still not sure. I mean, they say that about Asperger's syndrome, that our Asperger's people genuinely... disabled is the wrong word. No, disabled is the right word. Are Asperger's people like me genuinely disabled, or the next step of evolution for humans? Spoiler alert, disabled is the answer, but it's a nice question to ask. This dog used to poo on the floor when we weren't looking, and when we were looking he went outside, but when we weren't looking, and it's not anybody's job to monitor him 24/7, he would just go on the carpet. He would do poo on the carpet. Now this indicates that he realised it was wrong but did it anyway. I don't know, maybe he was setting himself tighter and tighter windows of opportunity as challenges to alleviate the boredom of the apartment, which would be fair enough. I don't know. But unless you actually caught him in the act, there's not really much point in yelling at a dog for pooping. Otherwise, they get confused and they think the problem isn't so much that they pooped, but that you found it. Which, in the case of a lot of dogs, it just makes them want to hide it better the next time. So that's not what we wanted. So we tried to stay away from yelling at him. We put his nose right beside it, we picked him up, we put him outside, and then we refused to let him in for a few minutes while we clean up the mess and disinfect the block. So none of this worked. I took him to an official dog trainer. That's how bad it got. And I'm really bad at taking... I mean, I have a real problem with authority. I'm bad with taking instruction from anybody about anything. It just really annoys me. It just goes to the heart of my being, and it makes me want to... It just makes me very angry. The only thing that makes me angrier than people telling me what to do is meditation. Don't ask me why, it just drives me homicidal. I want to put my fist through a wall anytime I try to meditate. So I took him to an official dog trainer who told me that it takes about 10 minutes to train a dog to do anything, but about 40 minutes to train the owner. Everybody who was there laughed nervously when he said that, but I could tell from the look in his eyes that this had been his opening line for the last 10 years, and it was getting less and less funny every time. He wanted to kill every dog owner in the world and take all the dogs home with him. He told me to jam a crate up against the dog flap and make sure he doesn't get into the house at all for about 3 days, to associate the idea of pooping in the dog's mind with an exclusively outdoor activity, which makes sense. So we arranged the setup as ordered. And at the time it took us to go to the store across the road for some mosquito repellent, he somehow pushed the crate away from the dog flap. We found this out early because he greeted us enthusiastically at the window, slobbering all over the shiny glass, pulling at the blinds in a way that took some time to untangle. So next we piled boxes of books on the crate to make it inert. But in the time it took us to go back to the store and exchange the mosquito repellent for what we actually wanted, he managed to open the back door, push it across, and that's not an easy thing for me to do. Jump back over the books he piled in his crate and waited the window for us again, full of the sort of vacant delight that only stupid people and animals can summon. He got us where we slept. He peed on the girls' beds. He peed on my bed too when I left the door open to go to the bathroom, like an idiot. Foolishly left the door open for 5 seconds and he went in and peed on my bed, or that thing I had instead of a bed. He went through all the trash cans and he ate everything. He ate grass and weeds and balls of string. He ate a ball of string, and the ball of string unravelled inside his guts. So let me just try and imagine what the next day or two was like for us. A whole ball of string that for some reason elected to unravel inside his guts. Just think about that. Okay. And we're back in the room. One terrible, unspeakable day, I came home to find that he had rifled through the bathroom trash can and discovered a special woman's thing. He must have been attracted by the smell of the blood. And this thing was ripped to bits and distributed all across the living room carpet and up the stairs. Nobody else was home, all the girls were gone, so I had to fix this myself. And I did, and that was a bad day. I'm okay now. He had no understanding of his own abilities or limitations. If you threw a ball, he'd race after it. He'd run back, and he'd stop about 2 yards away and refuse to give it to you. Like, he'd want you to throw the ball, but he didn't want you to have the ball at any point in time. Which doesn't work, logically. One day, in the high summer, the girls took him to the local park, which was attached to Ramona High School on Madison in Riverside, California. The ball was repeatedly thrown, and he repeatedly ran after it. He ran after it so much that he developed a mild heat stroke and fell over. And when he came back to the house, he just sat there, lying on the ground, panting like crazy and burning up. We put water-soaked towels in his body, and he was fine after a little while. He used to squeal in the night time, just squealing, "Arr!" when he wanted to be let out of the cage. Ungodly cries at an ungodly hour. And when we let him out, he sauntered over to the couch and just sat there on my couch with his head hung low, not moving. I have no idea what extra benefit he felt was conferred on him by not being in the cage. So we were stuck with this stupid, stupid dog who had no understanding of just how irritating he was. Every day we were given some reminder of how much better off our lives would be without him. People we never met have hated this dog. And the only people who liked him are those who showed up for an hour or two and then left. Or people who have no personal experience of him at all. We had all the onus of having a dog with none of the usual benefits of companionship or even the relatively minor concession of not having poo on my floor. However, we had accepted this responsibility and we didn't want to go back. I guess we thought it would build character. Or perhaps some sort of universal justice would kick in and we'd all become millionaires, but I'm still waiting for that to happen. So yeah, that bit that I wrote was written about 5 years ago now. And thinking back on it, that dog did sort out a lot of things. Like, Jordan Peterson is always going on about accepting responsibility being good for you, and he thinks having children is the best responsibility you can have, because suddenly your life is about something more than you, and you genuinely feel it in your balls. Like, you're not just saying it because you're biologically impelled to give a shit about your own kids. And that's good for you and for the human race, is Jordan Peterson argument, and I can see where he's going with that. But I do not like waking up in the morning. I am not a morning person. I get up about noon and I'll go to sleep about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's my plan. And if I can stick to that plan, I'll be as productive as it's possible for me to be. But man, this dog has his own schedule, you know? And if you don't get up, he will go on the carpet. So I had to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I did. Just to go outside with him for 10 minutes and come back in again. And just that little thing, I think, counts as the adoption of an amount of responsibility that really I hadn't had in any way with anyone ever before. And I don't know, I mean, Jordan Peterson argues that it makes you a better person. I don't know if it makes you a better person, but you could argue that it makes you more useful, in the sense that you're willing to put up with more in other areas, I guess. I don't know. I do think it makes you more useful if you're okay doing things you don't really want to do, because you understand there's a larger thing that you want to do. I guess, I don't know. A lot of stuff is weird. A lot of Jordan Peterson's arguments are very strange. Like, he seems to spend hours and hours painfully agonizing and considering and doing some hard thinking to come to the identical conclusions that right-wing reactionary bigots come to in seconds. So, I don't know. Right-wing conservatives. This makes me think that maybe he's... You know what? This is about my dog. If I want to talk about Jordan, I will do that in a different podcast. So yeah, I miss my dog. My dog has no redeeming features. He's just a vicious brute. Antisocial. He hated everybody and everything. And I miss him. I have no idea. I think I just, like E.B. White said, I think I just admire the fact that he's his own mind, like. He's his own... He doesn't concede anything to anyone, even if it means starving to death. He would not moderate his position. He's like, I suppose he's the Christopher Hitchens of dogs. I like that. I did respect that about him. Myself and Andrea talk about getting a dog sometimes, but Brian's my dad, who owns the house. And Brian says no, so no dog for us now. I'm not sure it would be a good idea anyway, for a number of different reasons. I think there's a moral difficulty in keeping any animal as a pet. I don't think it's right. I wrote a whole article about this, which I will link in the description below this, and you can read it if you want. But it's essentially, the TLDR on it is we have a disordered relationship with animals, and we need to rethink it just to be logically consistent, if not necessarily to be better people. But I've nothing wrong with being better people either. Could be it. That is it. It was a short one today. Predicted. Good. And I am not out yet. What do I say? What's the end bit? Yeah, okay. If you like this, tell your friends. If you don't like it, if you think this is terrible, tell everybody you know. And I am out.
Not like you.